Hey everybody, good afternoon. My name is Ricardo De Cruz and I represent Complete Auto Reports and Joe Man Auto Service. Today we're going to talk about a 2020 Nissan Altima and we're going to discuss how we can use our 7-step method for alignment and perform 3 alignments at the same time, or at least prepare for 3 alignments at the same time to help us save a ton of time, effort, and energy. So in our last video, or last couple of videos, we've showed you how we can use a 7-step method to accomplish incredibly efficient and accurate ADAS alignments. So here we've taken the same principles in the 7 steps and we've added the other measurements required to perform 3 calibrations in one sequence. So I have done steps 1 through 5 at this point. And once we're done talking about it here, I'm going to go in and carry on from step 5 and complete all 3 sequences. There are a few things to note today that I typically don't do, but I'm doing for this exercise. The first thing is this vehicle does not require a lane departure warning or lane departure camera calibration at this time. Nissan provides us with the avenue to check it. So we're going to try the check feature out and see what it does. We're going to set up the target because it's the same exact exercise. We're just not changing the calibration. Once we're done with the check, we're going to move on to the radar alignment, which this car does need. And then from there, we're going to move on to the 360 front view camera. And that one has a huge caveat because I don't have the 360 degree view mats. And I'm going to describe to you what my thought process is, and we're going to try it out. Reminder, this is live. This is a real shop. People can walk in at any point in time. If something does go wrong, I will try to discuss it as best as I possibly can, but I may not be able to resolve it within the time for this session. So if something does go wrong, I will come back and update you guys. We're going to hope nothing does. I have not performed this sequence on any other car before. So what you're going to see today is a little bit of putting it together over the last day to show you how this can be accomplished. So going into Nissan requirements, the first one is the radar calibration that we're going to talk about. And they show you how they want you to set up the radar plate. They give you the distances. This is essentially what their drawing looks like. One of the simplest ones, even though it might not look that simple. The next is the lane departure camera calibration. Here you see they have 2 lines, a left-hand side line and a right-hand side line. And then they want you to place the target at point X after you perform some sequences and measurements. Now, what's really funny about the instructions on the lane departure warning camera is they want you to draw lines. I'm not sure how many of you guys can draw on your shop floor at random, but probably not a great idea. So this is an obvious effect of using, or an obvious benefit of using the 7-step system with the lasers to really get where you have to go incredibly fast and incredibly efficient. The last one is the 360-degree camera. I call this the spider web. I had to stare at this for a good 5 minutes before I really figured out what was going on in general. But I'll teach you guys a little something that I've learned about 360 cameras overall. So 360 cameras essentially just want you to create the perfect parking space. So you will find from manufacturer to manufacturer, the measurements will differ, the targets may be slightly different, but ultimately they want a perfect bounding box, which is very much like a parking spot and parking configuration within a parking lot. This is what the actual targets for the Nissan 360 view calibration look like. So they are very, very similar to the Lexus targets that we made in-house. The principal difference here is the Lexus targets had a black base with white lines, and the Nissan targets have black lines with a white center and white base. So you would look at this and look at the Lexus targets and think, well, it doesn't work. The colors are off. Now, again, going back to what I understand about 360 view camera calibrations, they just want the perfect bounding box. And in doing so, they're assuming you drew out the perfect bounding box, and they want you to use their software to adjust it accordingly so that it looks like a perfect bounding box. So again, I don't have the Nissan targets. I do have the Lexus targets. We're going to lay them out and see what it looks like in the car. So this is basic homework when doing calibrations these days. It requires a lot more reading. I've condensed everything as much as humanly possible so you can see it here. But it all breaks down to this. These are the 3 calibrations that need to be performed. This is the radar calibration. Nissan says you have to be within 1,010 millimeters and 1,110 millimeters. We picked 1,100 just for an easy round number. The camera calibration says 750 millimeters is the measurement front and rear. And the lane watch camera calibration is 3,000 millimeters, but 3,000 from the front axle. The other 2 are from the front of the vehicle and not the front axle. So that is the defining difference between these 2 calibrations and this one. Measurement difference. And most camera calibrations are measured from the front axle and not the front of the car. Lane watch camera, not 360 camera. The one big difference that is not found in many places, unless you're doing 360 camera calibrations, is point C. Point C here discusses that they want 30 centimeters or 11.8 inches or 300 millimeters from the baseline of the car. So the targets that we typically use are not 300 millimeters wide. They are 74 millimeters wide. So we set them up like we normally would with our 7-step method, and then we just added the remaining 268 millimeters to get our 300. I also measured ride height. They asked me to do so. I don't know if it asked me to input it, but we shall see shortly. I know these values are going to be input. I wonder if I could print this out right now. And now we're going to go into the shop and we're going to continue this. And again, guys, I want to stress this is live. I have not done this before, particularly with the Texas software. So I'm hoping everything works. I think it will. Time to find out. See if I missed anything. No. So now we're going to go out and show you guys our setup. So pardon me while I switch our cameras around. All right, so you guys might hear some background noise. It is raining in lovely New Jersey today, but we're going to go through the steps. So there's our rear plumb bob hanging down. Here we have our 2 lines. And here you can see where our measurements are at. So this is 74 millimeters wide. The center point is 32. I have measured out 300 millimeters, which is the 30 on this ruler. So now, coming up to the front line, you will see the exact same thing that's done here. So as far as I'm concerned, our bounding box is good to go. I'm going to place this down in front of the car and let you guys watch as I finish each section and get it ready. The first calibration we're going to do is going to be the lane departure warning. And I'm going to set up at 3,000 millimeters from the front axle. So here we have our line going straight back. We have our square. 3,000 is over, and now we're going to make our center line where we need it to be. So that beeping is probably one of my lasers dying. Not sure which one. I know which one, but doesn't matter. I don't need it right now. And hard to see, but it is hitting a plumb bob way down there. So now at 3,000, I can set up my camera system. Calibration program. So you can see I've got a straight line going exactly where my target is. From behind, you can see my line was straight before, so my target is now in place of my center line. And one of the most important aspects is the opposite side line. So this just takes a little bit of practice to get right, but it is not difficult. So now, another quick reminder with Nissans is that their keys, or their ignition rather, shuts off. So in the middle of a sequence, regardless if you have your battery tender hooked up, your ignition may still shut off. So we've got our techs are ready. Need to get my printed sheet. This is the equipment I have. And I'm going to cancel out of this because this brings me right into a sequence that might not be what I'm trying to do, meaning it might have brought me to the calibration instead of the check. So I only want to check. Here it is asking for my measurements, which was front left is 694. Front right is 6. Oh, got to confirm that one. Oh no. 695. Everything else stays the same. And confirm. Confirm again. So there is the front video camera check completed. I will check into these later, but I assume these are within spec or else it might state something. Again, I don't want to assume, but we will check into that later. Just to show you how long it took for us to get from 0.5 to camera calibration. So now we are going to end this communication and go into the radar sequence and then set up our radar. I'm going to cycle the ignition. And set up the target at 1100. Now remember, 1100 is from the front line of the car, not the axle line. So here we made our front line. Front line is consistent with the front bumper. We gave it the correct 90 at a measurement of 1100. There's our perpendicular line. And now we're going to set up our target. So Nissan tells you to just make the target the same height as the sensor. The fastest way to do that is just to measure it. This one measures out at 590. Okay. So at 1100 millimeters, you can see I am aligned nicely with my line and center with this. Texa indicates that they want to see 0.0 on here. We're at 0.1. Slight adjustment down to 0. So now I'm going to start the sequence with the Texa software. Alignment completed. Cycle our key. And now we've officially done 2 calibrations in about 20 minutes or so. Not really keeping track, but I know it has not been that long. So the final one, I want to stress again, I do not have the Nissan 360 target. I'm just going to hook up my lines and lay my Lexus targets down. just to see what it looks like. So they want 750, 300 millimeters out from the car. So here is my 750 line. See if I can get you close enough to see that. My square at 300. And now let's see if I can lay down the Lexus targets where they belong according to the measurement and see what it looks like in the car. Now, Nissan says that there should be 3,000 millimeters of front white line space. Now, I need to check my notes on something. Yeah, so it's 3,000 millimeters from end to end. And I just want to show you how funny this is and how we're not sure if it's going to work or not, but there's the start of my tape measure. There's the end of my tape measure, and that is 3,000 millimeters. Now, we can argue, rightfully so, that I do not have a passenger side line to confirm that this is indeed a perfect square. I am going on the good faith of these two red lines that you can see being as absolutely perfect as they can be. And now I'm just really curious to see what this looks like on the screen. So we are going to execute the software function and go inside the car. So this brings me right into the sequence. The ignition is on, car is in park. We're going to confirm. And now, first things first, I got to bring this down. Actually, I should bring it inside just in case we want to see what we're looking at. So here are the lines laid out. So as you can see, the Lexus targets are not ideal, and I did not work on my lines perfectly. I'm assuming this target would have to be out more. The 3,000 millimeters is really the space it wants to see in between. And while this is not designed for what I'm using it for, it's a good learning exercise to see what you're actually doing, how it affects what's going on, and how you can think outside of the box to resolve a ton of issues. So if I was going to resolve this right now, the centerpiece that you saw me lay down, I would make one that is 3,000 millimeters in size. I would make the right side line, and I would lay these targets out exactly where I wanted. And being the fact that all we're doing is lining up lines, it's going to work. In this case, these lines are off a little bit there, and they're off a little bit here, but you can see in the grand scheme of things, my center line's perfect. Look at that. So, great lesson, things to do, things to try. I'm going to cancel out of this. Let this run an all code scan. I'm glad that everything worked with the 2020 Altima. They did not work with the Rogue that we did a few weeks back. So this was a good surprise to have, not having to farm workout. Oh, look at that. There's the Nissan turning off the ignition for no good reason. Start this scan and finish this up. So again, my name is Ricardo de Cruz. I represent Complete Auto Reports and Joe Man Auto Service. If you guys need great shop software, that is what Complete Auto Reports does. We're here to help you and your shop excel. Joe Man is the shop in New Jersey that car Complete Auto Reports stems from. If you are in New Jersey and need ADAS services, please feel free to look us up and give us a call.
Otherwise, thank you for watching. I hope you guys learned something today. Ultimately, we performed 3 calibrations in less than an hour's time. This is how you make money, guys.